அந்த இதுவா சார் சார் அது எதுவும் சொல்லி ஓகே சொல்லி சார் நான் அனுப்பிச்சிருந்தேன் நான். சரிங்க சார் அது கரெக்ஷன் கம்ப்ளீட் கரெக்ஷன் கம்ப்ளீட் நான் இப்போ கேட்டு போட்டுருக்கேன் சார் போட்டு அந்த கரெக்ஷன் என்ன இருக்கு. சரிங்க சார் சார் இப்போ ஒரு நான் இல்லையே சார் நான் இப்போ சொல்கிறேன் சார் இப்போ ஒரு ஒன் ஹவர் கழிச்சு போடுறேன் சார் ஒரு வெபினார் ஆரம்பிச்சேன் ஒரு 1 ஹவர் கழிச்சு சொல்கிறேன் சார். ஆமாம் ஆமாம் சார் ஆமாம் சார் நான் போட்டுருவேன். சரிங்க சார் அது எங்கேயும் போகாது சார் அது நமக்கு மட்டும் தான். So we are ready, sir. இல்லை 11 o'clock உங்கள் டைமில் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுறேன் ஷார்ப்பாக.
Yeah, shall we start this webinar by singing the Tamil flag art? Shut up for a while.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's here and here.
Audio on live, sure. Audio on live.
திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுட எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறந்து என்று செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே.
Thank you. Thank you all. Sure. Mr. Ramachituma, heartfelt good morning to all of you. It was a privilege and integrity for me as the head of the Department of History to welcome you all to this one-day webinar. Honorable Chief Guest, Revered Bishop, Chairman, Secretary of our college, Principal, Office Bearers of our college, and the IQAC team, beloved siblings of history, research scholars, students, and all my dear friends. The Department of History covered in its webinar progressively to the faculty, students, and research scholars to keep information and be commendably with research exercises at KEELADI. Obviously, it goes without saying that prodigious labors went in priming for this day because the preparation could not happen instantaneous. It involves vigilant scrutiny of every detail, as even the least slackness can indulge the intact efforts. So let us appreciate the efforts of all the members who are working hard day and night to shine in their concert. It was all happened one day when our principal was asking me why you didn't conduct any webinar so far, and my mind was muddled with whom should I approach. Suddenly, Dr. Sarah's name came into my mind, and I called him whether you could be the resource person for the seminar, and he readily accepted the invitation. I take it as a privilege to introduce our chief guest and the resource person, Dr. Sarah. Of course, Dr. Sarah needs no preface, since many of you know him, but when I perused through the list of participants of this webinar, I found that many of you are pursuing research degrees. So it is imperative that I should introduce the chief guest in full, that it may empower the scholars to get his personal guidance. I had an opportunity to meet Dr. Saran when our department conducted a PhD public viva course, and I was spellbound of his credit in the field of art, architecture, iconography, and ceramic types of India in particular, and the world in general. I also comprehend that he is assisting various groups of researchers, research scholars, of course, without any hesitation. I was told that he was a gold medalist in his PhD degree and pursued his research degrees, MPhil and PhD. He had training in preservation and conservation of antiquities, underwater archaeology, and application of remote sensing for archaeology. He's having a very wide contact with eminent personalities of this world of archaeology, and assisting various groups of people who are interested in the field. His 3 decades of service comprised as technical assistant, technical officer, and a lecturer. He involved in more than 12 sites and trained around 30 batches of their final year PhD students in excavation and first years in exploration. He had produced more than 10 research articles and published them. He involved himself in giving lectures to the other departments and colleges of the university on the field of archaeology and the significance of forts and the relevance of archaeology. He co-authored Palur excavation report and had given his expert comments on the ceramics in excavation. His contribution on non-scriptural graffiti of Archimedu, a site giving us an information about the Indo-Roman trade links, is astounding, which was with the collaboration with the University of Pennsylvania, USA. and is also associated with cultural attaché of Italy on centers of Indo-Roman trade. He is also a supporter of Indo-Japanese megalithic project of Tokyo University. He is seldom tired of giving his expert advice to those who call him for his assistance. And many archaeologists and other walks of people who are interested in archaeology from England, France, Germany, Africa, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and other countries. He served as an honorary advisor to the government of Tamil Nadu in the Department of Tourism and Culture. Since 2014, he associated himself with KEELADI excavations, and it is right time for us to know about the excavations. Recently, on invitation, he visited Goddiprolu site in Andhra Pradesh, excavated by the Archaeological Survey of India, and discussed the salient features of the Satavahana fortification, comprising of brick-built basins, connecting walls, and associated structural activity. I ensure that the webinar will be beneficial, and the next few hours will be gratifying and productive for every one of you. Friends, this is all from me. Thank you all for being a patient listener. I'll see you after this session. Till then, enjoy the webinar. Thank you very much. Go over to Dr. Saran. Dr. Saran.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning to everyone whomsoever are participating on the webinar. So it is my humble pleasure to thank Professor Dr. Benjamin, the authorities of the Voorhees College Management, and everyone who have taken pain of attending this webinar. So let me get into the subject right now. KEELADI, an agrarian-based industrial supportive settlement of ancient times of the state. To brief the archaeological explorations and excavations which had occurred prior to the mammoth work which we are undertaking at KEELADI. Discovery of the first prehistoric tool by Sir Robert Fruitswood in the year 1863 clearly gives a clinching issue and has given an opening chapter to almost all the researchers of archaeological parlance. So in that way, it attracted of every researcher to go in search of the antiquities and the archaeological materials for adding information of the legacy of our heritage right from 2 million years. So in that angle, that has given an introduction. So next to that, it was during the time of Sir Mortimer Wheeler, who had conducted excavations at the Brahmagiri, Chandravali and other parts of India, in particular in early 1940s. He conducted the Archimede excavation, and in fact, that was one of the large-scale excavations which was held earlier in the state of Tamil Nadu, and which led to a scientific way of approaching the archaeological remains hidden in the womb of earth. So in that way, he has opened a new approach of linking the artifacts to the existed contemporary socio-economic perspectives of the ancient people. Through these major discoveries, which actually led to an impact of scholarly attention, only the northern portion of Tamil Nadu had some concentration of archaeological works undertaken by some of the archaeologists, and as a result, they have not given much attention towards the south. So with this perspective, some of the archaeologists who have taken up village to village survey explorations and the extensive exploration conducted by Amarnath as the steward of Archaeological Survey of India, Bangalore Circle Excavation Wing, to probe more number of archaeological sites on the banks, on either banks of River Vaigai. In this context, to start with, Professor Dr. K.V. Raman, who was actually the head of the department and my professor and mentor of the department, during his tenure in Archaeological Survey of India as one of the officers, had taken up the village to village survey covering Theni, Dindikkal, Periykulam, and the adjoining taluks in the year 1950. As a result, he had mentioned number of sites in and around Madurai as potential archaeological mounds which have the importance of our heritage. Based on this, very recently in the year 2003, Dr. K. Rajan of the then he was earlier at Tanjavur, Tamil University. Now, Professor Head recently retired as the head of the Department of History from Pondicherry University, had conducted explorations in and around Madurai, and as a result, he too revealed two important sites, namely Tadapatti in Dindikkal district and Puliman Kombai in Theni district, where he discovered the hero stones with inscriptions datable to the early centuries of the Christian era. Based on these informations, the excavation wing of Archaeological Survey of India had extensively done an archaeological survey right from the origin of River Vaigai from the Vallimalai hills of the Western Ghats, where the river having joined with the tributaries like the Sulliyar, Aranadi, Baraganadi, Manjalar becomes a much bigger river and reaches in the upper reaches, then flows in the valley and finally drowns into Bay of Bengal at a place called Athangarai, which is adjacent to Aragankulam, which was nothing but a port city of the early Pandyas, where the State Department of Archaeology had conducted on several seasons the excavations and confirmed its trans-oceanic contacts of the Tamils with the Greco-Roman world and other parts of North India. So, in that scenario, the exploration conducted by Amarnath proved its might of stretching, traversing 250 kilometers right from its origin of the river till its estuary point at Athangarai, that is Aragankulam. He had located 293 sites, and in those sites, they have discovered many archaeological remains in the form of urns, menhirs, hero stones, sculptures, architectural features, and habitational sites. And among the 293 sites, 100 sites seems to be so potential enough for the conduct of excavation, in particular of habitation purposes of ancient Tamil Nadu. So, in that angle, during 2013 and 14, the entire team had given a Pakka report to the Government of India. Based on that, the team had ventured at KEELADI, a mound which stretches to a length of more than 110 acres of land, which is hardly, the site KEELADI is hardly 15 kilometers from east of Madurai, exactly 13 kilometers east and southeast of Madurai city, which stretches to a circumference of 4.5 kilometers and which is being engulfed by natural epithets in the form of Manalur tank, locally termed as Manalur Convoy on the eastern side, and Agaram is another important place at its southeast as it's one of the cluster unit of KEELADI. Then on the west exists the Kondagai site. So in all these places we come across the early historical material pertaining to and very much associated with KEELADI. So based on these materials, in the year 2014 and 15 as the first season work of Archaeological Survey of India. The team led by ASI team led by Amarnath started excavating KEELADI, and from that time onwards, it started unraveling very good antiques and which had opened new vistas in the annals of the Tamil history, and which had reached every nook and corner of the world. So, at this juncture, it is my concern to extend a vote of thanks to Amarnath, who initially invited me and joined that team. So, since that year, I had the opportunity of associating with the archaeologists of not only this state or the State Department or the universities, but also of Archaeological Survey of India and other organizations, as well as the archaeologists of other parts of the world. So, in that angle, the changing scenario of the cultural sequences right from the early centuries of the Christian era till date has been nurtured through the artifacts recovered from the explorations conducted by the entire team. In fact, this site is exactly on the trade route linking the Chera country as well as the extreme southern portion of the Pandya country, namely Rameshwaram, Adankulam Rameshwaram. So, from there, it also had the trans-oceanic contacts with Sri Lanka and the portions of Southeast Asian countries. So, in that angle, KEELADI site gains momentum as a hub of not only the advanced stage of ancient settlement. It also had some trade links with internal as well as external with the nearby cities and towns of India as well as to far off countries, namely of Greco-Roman world. So the river which starts from Mallimalai in Western Ghats, having collecting the waters of the other territories, tributaries, namely Sulliyaru, Manjalaru, Marnadi, Uppar, actually enriches the richness of culture at various points, and based on this, the entire districts of Theni, Dindigul, Madurai, Sivagangai, Ramanathapuram are said to be part and parcel of the river valley civilization of river Vaigai. So, in that angle, let me recall the literary output of the early Sangam epoch. Paribad in its it's one of the 8 anthologies of the Tamil literature. In 8 long verses, it narrates the importance and the historicity of the places on the banks of river Vaigai. Similarly, Madurai Kanji is another literature which speaks the grandeur of Madurai city. So, besides these artifacts in the form of tools, Paleolithic tools, microliths, neoliths, and the Iron Age implements, and the artifacts of Iron Age and early historical material. Of course, till as late as 10th, 11th century, Chola coins and other vestiges have also added such information of rebuilding the history of KEELADI and the adjoining areas right from the early centuries of the Christian era, from 6th century BC to the present. It was only Dr. K.V. Raman in the year 1950, he had conducted the village-to-village survey covering the area of Madurai, Tirumangalam, Melur and Periyakulam. Then, after a long gap, in the year 2006, K. Rajan discovered 2 hero stone Tamil Brahmi inscriptions at Tadagapatti and Puliman Kombai in Theni district. So it becomes very vital to review some of the excavations conducted previous to the proper conduct of excavation at KEELADI. So earlier at Paravai, in the year 1888, Alexander conducted the excavation and a tool was recovered from an adjacent explored site Avio, Paleolithic tool. Similarly, in the year 1976, Archaeological Survey of India conducted the T-Kalliputti excavation, which revealed the early historical sequential materials, in particular the white kaolin painted pottery, which is first of its kind from the satellite deposit of the Tamil Nadu excavated site. So it is a novel antiquity, and in the year 1980, the State Department of Archaeology conducted an excavation at Kovalan Portal. Then in the year 1986, till for 6-7 seasons, they conducted the excavation at Aragankulam. Then in the year 2006, they conducted the excavation at Mangalam. Among them, Aragankulam, located at the end point of River Way with the Bay of Bengal, had yielded interesting evidences of early historical period identified as a port city of early Pandyas, linking Aragankulam to that of the further cities of the state, Rameshwaram, Sri Lanka, Greco-Roman world, and apart from that, we get references from Seleucus Nicator, an ambassador of Chandragupta Maurya, states that as one of the cities which existed here, which supplied the pearls from the Pandyan coast to their land. Similarly, Arthasastra also makes mention of the correlated references about the Pandyan Empire linked with that of the Mauryans with the north. So the impressive twin habitation mound which existed at KEELADI was identified in the year 2013-14 and taken up for the conduct of excavation by Archaeological Survey of India, the excavation wing number 6 of Bangalore Circle under the stewardship of Amarnath, and thereupon it collected more than many thousands of antiquities. So to be very precise, in the initial year, they collected more than 5,000 antiquities. Then, in the second year, more structural remains in the form of tanks, water channels, open water channels to carry the water, mainly to cater to the requirements of the industrial purpose of the settlement, which was concentrated in the locality 2, where the Archaeological Survey of India was conducting it. So, besides these, they have also recovered 72 potsherds, which are so unique of character. 72 potsherds which are so unique of character, and they have personal names of the camels as Sadan, Satan, Kubiranathan, Ugan, and Mandan. So these are all the Tamil names which exist. So which gives a clear indication that the early century contemporary Tamils had the literacy level in a much developed level, and as a result they could write their names exactly on the vessels they purchased or procured from the potters. So invariably most of the sherds have different handwriting, so which gives an indication that they had written these names personally to indicate it is their position. Other than this, the excavation revealed antiquities of the higher level strata of the society, costly golden ornaments and copper objects, iron implements. Then the commoners' utility vessels like pottery of many varieties, and even some of the Roman potteries like Aratan ware were also recovered. Then rouleted ware, which we treated very recently as indigenously imitated imported ware, but it's not imported ware, as the material is taken from the local ponds and lakes. So in that way, it is an imitated, indigenously imported designed ware. So that also been recovered in many numbers. Of course, the South Indian early historical popular ceramics types like black and red ware, black ware, red strip ware, red ware, and apart from this, conical jars and every other type. And in the midst of these varieties, particularly of black and red ware and black ware, we get rust coated painted ware and white kaolin painted ware. So in fact, all this clearly gives a lead of fixing the cultural settings of KEELADI prior to 2000 years before present. So based on these evidences, the excavation at KEELADI for the first 2 seasons was very well conducted, and during the third season, as they were chosen, as the Archaeological Survey of India department chosen the fringe end of the mound, they couldn't get enough finds. As a result, they have wound up the camp. Thereupon, it has banged the doors of the archaeology of the state as well as the central. As a result, the State Department of Archaeology, under the leadership of Government of Tamil Nadu, has taken up the 4th season work. So from the 4th season, I have the opportunity of extending my expertise through the State Department as an expert archaeologist. So since 2017, 18, 19 and the current year, I have been associating with them as the expert. So in all the 3 seasons, we were collecting enough number of antiquities. To be very precise, in the 4th season alone, more than 7,800 antiquities were recovered. So all the antiquities comprise of golden ornaments, copper objects, iron implements, then clay objects like chessmen and hopscotches, then bone tools, bone objects, and in the 4th season alone, 58 Tamil Brahmi shirts were recovered, and hitherto we come across names like Adan, Kubiranathan, something like that names which is very akin to only the Tamil vernacular. So here it is so interesting to observe that the Tamils prior to the Mauryas had the way of writing, and some of the letters are prior to the Ashokan Brahmi letters. So as a result, we, the team of archaeologists, very much involved in the critical remarks and investigation of this excavation report work. We have come to a conclusion that under the able leadership of the Commissioner of the State Department, T. Udaychandran sir, we started naming the script which existed as prior to the letters familiar and found written on the Ashokan Brahmi script. As not as Tamil Brahmi, we have coined the term as Tamidi. So for the first time in the history of Tamil Nadu, the term Tamili has come as the script of the Tamils, which is prior to the Brahmi script of the Ashokan times. So prior to 2300 years. So not only the material evidences we have rely on, we have also sent the samples, carbon samples to the Beta Analytic Center of Florida in United States of America, based on the carbon dating which they have given as 580 BC. We have fixed the date of the material carbon sample collected at a depth of 3.53 meters from a trench, and its associated pottery as Kubiranathan Adan as that date as 6th century BC. So in this context, the earliest date of KEELADI has been fixed as 6th century BC. So now it is my concern when Kaveri Pumbadinam was excavated during 1960s, the Tamil literature had gained momentum of acceptance by the scholarly world, not as mere fictions or fictitious work, and they started recognizing the reality and the real information of the Sangam literature. KEELADI has gone a further step ahead of pushing the date to another 3 centuries, that is right from 2600 before present, 600 BC, from 600 BC to the present. It has given and travels the duration of accumulating the cultural wealth. So in that scenario, KEELADI, as by the popular saying of the majority of the public and the Tamils, KEELADI has become as the Thaimani of the Tamils, which has banged the doors of every corner of the world. So in this context, let me give you some of the illustrations in the form of the publication which has appeared in the interview report by the State Department of Archaeology, with the introductory remark by Dr. K. Rajan, Dilip K. Chakravarti, and P.J. Cherian. Of course, with the introductory remarks of T. Udaychandran sir. So let me get into the pictures now. Now you will be seeing the panoramic view of the aerial photography, drone photography of the excavated trenches by the State Department of Archaeology during 4th season amidst the palm groves. In fact, this palm groves actually safeguarded the entire mound, rising to 2.88 meters from the ground level to a stretch of 110 acres of land with a circup of 4.5 kilometers, engulfed by natural epithets in the form of adjoining villages, convoys, and lakes. Next one, please. This is one of the ring wells. So this gives a clear indication. Many ring wells were also unearthed besides the structural edifices in the form of tanks, water canals, open water channels to draw the water for industrial purposes. And of course, there is also a double U-shaped brick structure which might have been used for some kind of dyeing industry. And besides man-made objects, animal remains from were also recovered. So of the animal remains, bones of bulls, cows, deers, and peacock were recovered. So based on the collection of the samples, when they have been sent for the analytical study by paleontologists, they have stated that 53% of the bones constitute the cattle, which are very much useful for the agrarian activity of the early Tamils who survived in this part of the land. This is one of the structures comprising of 5 courses of bricks. This is from the first season work. This is a closer view of the same. With 5 courses of bricks, each brick measured 36 centimeter by 24 centimeter by 6 centimeters. So, which gives an indication. It is typically of the early historical brick sizes which existed in Urayur, Adangulam, Arikemedu, of course, Pumbuhar, Kaveri Pumbadinam, and other sites, Urayur. the Brahmi, Tamil Brahmi shirt, which I was talking about. Brahmi shirts, which this is one of the Brahmi shirts which contains Kubiranathan. Here, one thing we should understand, in the early way of writing, the Tamils used the short vowels to mean the elongated form of it. So, till some centuries, the same practice was continued in the way of inscriptions, which were engraved even on the rocks and other objects, other surfaces. For example, Kubiranathan is the name to be written. So, Kubiran for Ku is the same letter. Adan is the short vowel, but in order to have the elongated form, only the reader has to read it as Adan. Otherwise, we will be reading it Adan. So, Adan doesn't have convey any meaning. So, in order to arrive at the personal names, so it is the personal name of the individual, Kubiran, Adan to be spelt as Adan. So, this practice is very much akin to the Tamils. And in fact, Tamil consonants, pure consonants, they do not have dots earlier. And in fact, such practice existed in the Ashokan Brahmi. So, this gives a clear indication that this is prior to the Ashokan Brahmi and had taken its date as early as 6th century BC as on the finds of KEELADI. In the beginning, I was referring about the 58 numbers of shirts which contain Tamil letters and some of them of the proper nouns of the Tamils who existed or used it. So in these 58 shirts, all the handwriting are not the same. They are totally different. So which gives an indication that every individual who had taken the pot or the vessel from the potter has written their names personally with their own handwriting. So which gives a suggestion that it is it directly reflects the high literacy level of that society which existed 2500 years before present. And these are all the vessels in a compressed state. You can see the photograph on, and there is another which is of blackened bear with a larger bowl, and in one of the trenches at the lowest level to a thickness of 70 to 80 centimeters of area, 10 by 10 meters, yielded many cartloads of dumped potteries. So these are all the indications how such number and quantity of pottery might have existed at KEELADI. Definitely there could have been an industrial site located adjacent to this mound or forming part of the mound. Let me show some of the antiquities which have been published. So the top picture is the spindle wheels. Spindle wheels are the basic units to convert the cotton fibers into threads. So in order to make the fibers and convert it as thread, this is the bead-like terracottas being inserted with a long fish hook-like needle. At the top, these fibers will be placed and twisted so as to pull the fibers and twist it as a thread. And in turn, these threads in many hundreds will be and converted into a cloth. So in Tamil we call it a takali. And at the lower end, we get the bone points as arrowheads. And in one such arrowhead, we get double holes, which gives an indication which could have been used as a shuttle to be thrown between the fibers of the threads to be woven as the cloth. So, as the shuttle, they could have used. And on the other side, we have recovered a pestle and mortar. So, for medicinal grinding or other purpose, they could have used the pestle and mortar. And this piece, which is completely broken off its what you call the teeth of the comb, is made of ivory. So they had the ivory comb to decorate and appear before the society in a beautiful way. So they used combs. And at the lower, you have a bottleneck, a narrow, long-necked bottle, which is nothing but the prototype of the flask of the modern days. That was flask. The next picture is the collection of beads of various colors and shapes. The yellow one is of a collared nature. On either side, you have the protruding bulged extension into which the hole is pierced so that it can be connected and worn as the necklace all around the neck or any part of the body. The above were the golden objects recovered from the 4th season of the State Department of Archaeology, and at the down is the collection of what we call the glass beads. So glass beads generally occur in 3 stages. They are of opaque in nature, transparent and translucent. The beads which are shown in the collection is of opaque in nature, which is of sealing wax color, or you can put it as the coral color. The next slide gives you an indication of the dyes. In Tamil, we call it as Sokatan Kai. Kayam endu solluvom. Idu vandu Chaturanga Kai. The Chaturanga Kai pathina, which has 6 sides. So when we roll it, it contains numbers 1 to 6. So according to the sides, they have been turned and taken as a collective photograph of the same. So one such the 6-sided cubical dice was recovered from KEELADI from the 4th season work, and bottom you see the hopscotches, which is the basic unit of the kids of invariably all the strata, either the lower strata or the middle strata or the upper class people. They used to play the Pandi, Nuntikode, and the adjacent one is the chessman, which is similar to that of the chessman of the modern times. But here we should understand that all the coins gentlemen had the same shape. It is only according to their heights and sizes they can be differentiated and termed as either the king or the queen or the bishop or the elephant or the warriors. So only the shape and the size alone defines it, but they do not have different shapes. Besides this, the site also yielded many number of semi-precious stone artifacts in the form of carnelian, agate, then quartz beads of various shapes, barrel, tubular, spherical, flat, button-like, then truncated. So all these type of beads. The lower picture shows the photograph of the rouleted ware. Rouleting is the technique which the indigenous people imitated from the Roman ware. So prior to Archimedes excavation, the archaeologists were of the impression rouleted ware as one of the foreign wares. But from the time of the excavation conducted by the Department of Ancient History and Archaeology, Madras University, and I happen to be one of the teams associated with the Pennsylvania University team between 1989 to 1992 at Archimedes. after Mortimer Wheeler, who had conducted the large-scale excavation, the department conducted the excavation for 3 seasons, and it was only during that time the rough-letter ware has been thoroughly examined and accepted by the scholarly world as an indigenously imitated Roman world by the local potters, manufactured by the local potters. So, rough-letter ware, it is an indigenously imitated Roman type of ware. It is not Roman ware. So, some of the terracotta images, the head of a person with a tuft rolled over his forehead and a projecting of animal head, and yet another image is nothing but the mold of a terracotta, wherein we have the negative impression, positive impression. When we keep the lamp and press it, we can take the positive impression as the image. And the next is and a protruding image shaped or designed on the inner side adjacent to the rim portion of a vessel, probably signifying a baby like, with 2 arms stretched and the lower limbs placed down and the head above. These are all the other shirts. Tita is one of the shirt. And Kamati is another Tamil shirt recovered from the site. And these are all the ways by which the stratigraphy of the site on the basis of color, content and texture has been distinctly differentiated, and accordingly their chronology has been fixed based on the relative material evidences recovered from the corresponding depths of these strata. The closer view of some of the Tamil shirts. And these are all the other collections of the semi-precious. One thing we should understand, as far as the semi-precious stones are concerned, we do not have the raw materials to be very specific. The cornelian, such type of raw material we do not have, which has to come all the way from Gujarat. So that's why in Tamil literature we get the Padamalai Paranda Maniyum Punnum. So, which has come all the way from the northern India, as it doesn't have the mines here. So, cornelian has come from Gujarat. The top one, you can see, is the beads of cornelian, and the extreme one is that of quartz, and the bottom one is also quartz, glass beads, veins, then soapstone. Soapstone is a soft stone. When it's cut, it is so easy to work, and we can easily make the world what you call lathe turned workmanship. Terracotta bead also recovered. These are all the specimens of hopscotches. Now you get a closer view of the gamesmen of various sizes. And these were the collections from the 4th season alone. Iron objects in the form of implements meant for the agrarian activity and the domestic purposes, in the form of spades, billows, crowbars, chisels, and swords. And apart from these, terracotta ear ornaments were also recovered. So, in early days, the Tamil aged Mudati in Tamil, we call it as, they used to have the practice of wearing Mambadam in their hairs. Yeah, particularly people who hail from the extreme southern districts of Madurai, Theni, Dindigul, Ramanathapuram, right up to Kanyakumari, the elderly people used to wear an elongated ear-looped ornament which used to swing like a pendulum in their ears. So which gives an indication they had the practice right from the early centuries of the Christian era, and in fact these terracotta ear ornaments are the advanced level of what we call Panai Volai Surutu, born as the early ear ornaments by the early Tamil ladies. Panai Volai Suruti Kadla Adikuanga, which at a later time has become Pampadam in recent days. In some of the ladies, even now, they wear. It will be heavy in nature and it will be just swinging. When they just slightly tilt, it will be swinging like a pendulum. Locally they call it as a Tangati. And apart from this, conch bangle pieces were also recovered from the site. So these clearly give indication of some kind of industrial activity wherein the craftsmen existed for the requirement and need to be fulfilled for some portion of the society. These are all the animal horns recovered. Besides this, we also have collected a number of coins from the stratified deposit. And one such coin is of silver, which is a punchmark coin. So we get the square type Sangamage coin of the Pandyas and the imperial Chola coin of Rajaraja type and the later Pandya coins. Besides the Naya coins from the top level to the bottom. So all these clearly give an indication that KEELADI has given a variety of antiquities of not only the higher state of people, but also of the middle as well as the lower state of people who lived in and around KEELADI, and in particular the structural remains which were unearthed during the second season of Archaeological Survey of India, comprising of the complex nature of the building activities, particularly of brick and clay paste, and sometimes in some cases with lime plaster, gives an indication that it was an industrial site. And based on these antiquities, let me put it in this way, when we have the comparative study to that of Urayur dyeing vat and Adikimedu dyeing vat, we come to a conclusion the tanks which existed in KEELADI is on par with the structural remains of the other sites which I have cited. So in that way, weaving has become one of the industries of the society which existed 2500 years before at KEELADI. Similarly, pottery making has become a predominant industry of the contemporary period, and that's why in the lowest level of 2 trenches we have collected many cartloads of broken, dumped potteries of various varieties at the lowest most level. So which gives an indication it's not that easy to think of or imagine of such collection from a pit of say hardly 5 by 5 meters, and even in that only 2.5 meters is excavated. So with that phase of excavated portion, we have collected that amount of that quantity of pottery. So that also gives added information that KEELADI existed as one of the wide making, and to add information with the current present scenario of the environment of KEELADI and its localities to a stretch of 10 to 15 kilometers all around, one could find many brick industries which survive for their business activity. So which gives an indication the earth which existed all around this mound, around the entire mound of KEELADI to a stretch of 15 kilometers radius is a very good deposit of very good soil meant useful for brick making. That's why the brick industry exists and caters to the need of the urban settlement of Madurai and the adjoining towns and cities. Then the recovery of the semi-precious stone beads, golden ornaments, and the cutting of the conch shells gives clear indication that the individual craftsmen groups might have existed at KEELADI, or else these objects could not have been recovered from this site. So, all these art antiquities with raw materials, and in the case of iron slacks and iron ores were also recovered in the contextual level of the trenches. All this clearly suggests that the type of industries which supported the agrarian-based industrial settlement of KEELADI, which existed 2,600 years before present, and had its what we call extension of Iron Age, early historical phase, then early historical phase, extending till the 11th, 12th century of the Common Era. So it is a longer history of more than 1500 years, right from 2600. So these dates have been assigned based on scientific analysis and supported, well documented by scientific factors. It's not mere relative dating, it is based on the scientific dating. KEELADI has taken a step ahead of other excavations conducted in other parts of Tamil Nadu, and as a result, it gained momentum in the entire gamut of Tamil society, and it also attracted the other cultural setup of the world of looking at KEELADI as one of the prominent points, and that's why the sixth season work of the State Department is being conducted as a matter of cluster in the sense the adjoining areas. Once it could have been part and parcel of the locality of KEELADI. So currently the Tamil Nadu State Department of Archaeology has taken up the excavation at KEELADI and the adjoining areas like Kondagai, which is nothing but a typical megalithic Iron Age burial site, which is hardly 1 kilometer of western side of KEELADI site, which had revealed more than 25 urns and more than 10 primary pit burials of that contemporary age, that is early centuries of Christian era. And some of the burial mortal remains, skeletal remains have been carefully, scientifically been unearthed with the support of the team from Madurai Kamaraj University, headed by and other dating scientific experimentation. So we keep on periodically unearthing these burials from this season work from Kondagai. Similarly, Agaram started revealing the cultural vestiges from the medieval times to the early historical phase, and prior to that Iron Age, and still as an late associate of the microliths tools also started appearing from the Agaram site. So these gives clear indication that the adjoining areas like Manalur, Agaram, Kondagai, as part and parcel of KEELADI, is proving its might as one of the large extended mound of the early historical site dating back to 2,600 years. So with this, I come to an end. I once again thank the authorities, to be very precise, Dr. Benjamin, who had taken enough pain of arranging this webinar by inviting me to share my expertise. I have personally interviewed by many team of archaeologists, as well as interacted with many archaeologists of the field. And this is an opening to whomsoever participated by the link through the connecting source of the college authorities. So I thank once again the college authorities, Dr. Benjamin, and whomsoever participated in this scenario. Thank you so much. Now it is open for the session. Hello. Is it audible, Professor?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I have two questions from YouTube.
Okay. Okay.
One question is, chess coins and dices are composed of which material?
What?
Chess coins and dices are composed of which material?
Dice made of ivory and chess coins of terracotta.
Oh, thank you, sir. Then one more question, sir. What
Yeah,
was the religion of KEELADI culture?
To be very specific, to this time of excavation, we have not recovered any religious objects.
Okay.
So naturally, they could have had the natural way of worship.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. If anyone wants to raise any questions to Dr. Seran, you can.
Yes, sir. I would like to ask a question. My
Sure.
name is my name is Arun Pandian. I'm
Okay.
from UK. The thing is so far we have identified and we have excavated a lot of things from the KEELADI.
Sure.
So from that, how could we establish the modern society where lived and how it will be transferred our early history? Because so far our history is darkened. How could we bring
Okay.
it to the outside world?
See,
Thank you.
as far KEELADI finds are concerned, as I pointed out, the earliest date which I have assigned is 2600 years before present, that is 600 BC. So, which have traveled more than 26 centuries. To be, in particular, I was talking about one ear ornament. Even now, the Tamil society, particularly the aged ladies in Madurai, adjoining districts like Ramnad, they are wearing the pampadam in their ears, pendant ear ornament. So these ear ornaments, which has come all the way right from KEELADI early phase, because earlier the ladies whomsoever had the elongated earlobes were considered as one of the beautiful ladies, and it attracted the charm of the lads, that is the gents, and as a result, they married such women who had longer earlobes of wearing their ornaments. This is one indication. Similarly, when we trace the tool wise, all these weapons and the tools which we currently have, let me put it this way: screwdrivers, knives, which has not come all of a sudden, which has come and traversed the time of millions of years, 2 million years, when man has emerged on earth from prehistoric times. He, in order to protect himself and for the question of survival, shaped the stones as stone hand axe and tools, which in some point of time become the spearheads, and later the same has become the spears which is to be placed in front of Lord Durga. Is one of the Tamil deities. So the shape of the tools gets evolved from the prehistoric tools. Similarly, the arrow tips of the prehistoric times and the blades of the prehistoric, that is microliths, which has come, taken its various repetitive change of shapes, and which has become the blades of the present day. So in this way, the past could be linked to the present, and it is the legacy of the past which gets carried, of course, in a modernized, revised, and ultimately changed pattern of shape. Is that clear now?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
I'm from
Hello.
St. Mary's College, sir.
Okay, nice. Rojapu, wonderful.
From St. Mary's College. Sir, you have
Okay.
already said that rouleted ware is our indigenous creativity. Do you think that
Yes.
it is an imitation from the Romans tool?
Yes, yes. And as far that ware is concerned, we are in some places we also get original rouleted ware. Adankulam yielded such variety, which has
Yes,
come
sir.
all the way from the Roman world, because the raw material was taken and it was made only in the Rome. But other type of wares which we popularly get in invariably in all the sites, like Alagankulam, even Alagankulam, Keeladi, Arpakam, then what do you call Milchitamur, Kaveri Pumatinam, and other sites which have yielded the other variety which we are specifically mentioning it as imitated indigenous ware. It is only the design, because that design we do not have prior to the early centuries, which existed in the Roman world. So, as matter of design incorporation, our potters could have adapted it, and even now there is a particular type of potters who exist in Lucknow. They make this rouleting design on special occasions, as per the request of what we call the consumers.
Sir, shall I ask you one question, sir?
Sure, sir.
Sir, we do have trade links with Indo-Roman coins and everything we excavated at Arikabedu.
Okay.
Is this having any relationship with KEELADI? Is there?
Direct link we don't have, but material wise we can relate. Because the early centuries, KEELADI is one of the hub point which attracts the traders of the eastern port, namely Pattanam, Musiris of the Chera country, with that of the Pandya country, in order to get the commodities transacted between these two lands. So these are all the Tamil versions of the Sangam literature, which gives an indication that how commodities got transported or shifted from one place to the other. They had taken these commodities from one place to the other, and as a result, they have transported and exported it to other parts of the Greco-Roman world and the countries of South and Southeast Asian countries. So in this way, the Greco-Roman world had their link with the eastern port cities, the port cities of the western coast of the Indian Peninsula region, right up to Calcutta. There are many ports, and further they reached the Burmese coast, Malay coast, and thereupon they have ventured into the Southeast Asian countries like Bali, Borneo, Java. So these are all the ports by which they had the links. Of course, there is an indication in the form of an inscription at Takwapa, which states, "We, the merchants of Manigramam, had caused this edifice to be erected at this place." So the inscription gives an indication that the traders from Manigramam, forming part of Kaveri Pumbatiyanam, ventured into that portion of Southeast Asia, Takwapa, and having gained through trade, they have also contributed philanthropically for the construction or for the upkeep of the social welfare and the religious welfare of that temple, and they have engraved the inscription. So in a similar way, we also get potsherds from the Gulf countries with the Tamil scripts, which clearly gives an indication how the Roman world had the transaction. And apart from this, there was an ordinance passed by Emperor Augustus, which clearly states that asking the traders of the Rome country, Greco-Roman world, not to venture of the paper trade, by which much of the treasury of the Roman emperor got drained. That was the statement as per the verdict of the Roman order, Roman emperor's order. So, as a collaborative evidence, these could be taken because our early people had traded with the other portions of the external world only through the commodities. In turn, they received. This is the beautiful phrase which repetitively occurs in Sangam literature. Patina Palis, and other related literatures. So this gives a vivid description. When we get this kind of references, Yavanar is the term to refer the foreigners. When Yavanar comes in this context of Konnodu vandu Kariyedu vandu, we can immediately relate that the Greco-Romans, the traders of the Greco-Roman world, ventured into the port cities of the east as well as the western coastal towns of the peninsular region, and they have taken paper as their equated commodity for their consumption. In a similar way, when the Arabs ventured into the Indian port cities of the 10th century's contemporary period, they used to have similar phrases and quite aptly. Pariyudu vandu Kariyudu payarndu. Pari which was highly bred tamed horses were brought in as a product, as a in terms of the papers they have loaded. So these are all the indications by which we should surmise how the trade activity with the Indian support that of the external world existed. Thank you, boss.
So, one more question, sir.
Yeah.
So, in your biodata, you said that you have underwent a training on remote sensing of archaeology. Remote sensing
Yes.
for archaeology. Can that be extended more than 110 acres? What you have said?
Yeah, sure. During the course of the training, I was assigned satellite. I was assigned a satellite imagery by which I also study as per the pixels. So it was adjacent to Chidambaram locality. So through the pixels, I have located a mud fort out of the picture, which was exactly in a square shape. Of course, with the entry point with the projecting norms of the mud fort. And after the training, say after a few months, 6 months of my training, I returned into adjoining village. In one such village, I could see one portion of the existed mud fort, hardly 12 kilometers west of Chidambaram city. So this gives an indication that satellite imagery will naturally come to rescue. Of course, we should have a thorough field geographical mapping and the etymological derivations of the locality, and being supported by the local traditional and mythical knowledge of the elders who survive in that locality. Based on that, we'll be able to locate the hidden treasures or the unidentified treasures of the yester centuries through satellite imagery. Thank you, boss.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Any other question from other candidates? If so, you can ask him. So far nobody is raising any questions. Shall we close this program, sir?
Yeah, please close it.
I request that. Yes, sir.
I once again thank you in person,
Oh,
the
thank you,
principal,
sir. Thank you,
person,
sir. Yeah.
and the members who have joined and linked on this platform of webinar. So let me thank you all, thank you one and all, and let me place my sense of gratitude by Professor Mentor K.V. Raman and whomsoever like the authorities like K. Udayachandran sir, Shivanandam, and the Oculars of India authorities like Amarnath, who happens to be my student, but even then, he is the one who had initiated my entry into KEELADI. So in this scenario, I could travel at KEELADI for the 6th season of my work as an expert. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I now request Dr. Dayalan to say a few words of thanks, gratitude.
Sure.
Dayalan, over to you. Unmute பண்ணும்பா. நீ unmute பண்ணுங்க.
சார் அன்மியூட் பண்ணுங்க.
Sure.
தயலன் சார்.
மியூட்ல பேசுகிறானா அவன்?
மியூட்ல இருக்கு சார்.
Incoming permanent. Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Since Dr. Dayal has is yet to unmute his mobile, it could not be audible. I thank you all, sir, and all the participants who participated and have given. Some of you raised questions, and some of you given me all the things, very useful information, everything. Thank you so much for your participation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I also thank the team which supported through the modern equipment.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
All the best, sir.
Thank you. All the best. We'll be in touch with you. Thank you.
Definitely, sir. Definitely, sir.
Sure, sure.
Itu sir, udah.
Hello? Hello?